So as far as Pfizer abuse is concerned, there was tremendous Pfizer abuse. It's amazing that it's taken this long, and everyone knows it. It's been proven very substantially. Not only Pfizer abuse, changing documents and putting documents in front of the Pfizer court and courts that are disgraceful that they could have done it. And the fact is, we caught Joe Biden, President Obama, the whole group. You can look at Brennan and Comey and Clapper, the whole group. We caught them spying on our campaign. This was an illegal act like no other illegal act. This was treason. This was at the highest level of treason. And Obama and Biden got caught spying on my campaign using intelligence agencies of the United States government to do it, both before and after the election. So before the election, then after I won, they continued. It's total illegal activity, and now we just have to see what's happening.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, they've been caught red-handed. President Trump has continually suggested that the former administration run by Hussein and the rest committed treason in the way that they set him up for the Russia collusion hoax. We're going to talk about that because this story is exactly what they're trying to cover up with all of these major outbreaks of violence and this outbreak of this pandemic. They're trying to drown this story out because it matters. So stick around and check out that and a whole lot more. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I'm your host, Craig. You guys know the drill. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, please come here, do it. If you have, thank you. But once you do hit that subscribe button right here, make sure you click that bell, then select all so you get notified as soon as all these videos get posted. And please stick around to the end where we do a segment every episode called God's Grace is Greater. Today, we have a very special segment where we're going to talk about what consistency in our Christian lives really should look like. And we have it straight out of the book of Ephesians. So I hope you guys stick around for that at the end. Now, today we always go over the cue board to pick up where we left off. No new Q posts, 4620 is where we left off. And obviously, there's a lot happening in the news. This may be a little shorter episode because we have a few stories we want to cover that are major. But more importantly, as you saw at the beginning of this episode, President Trump lays out what happened. They committed treason. He calls them out by name. He says, it looks like Biden, Obama, Comey, Clapper, Brennan, the rest committed treason. Now think about what that means, right? Just take 1 second to step away from, the constant cycle of fake news, lies, and the incredibly irrational actions of political actors around. We saw Kamala Harris got chosen as Joe Biden's VP. Think about what that means, though. President Trump said, in no uncertain terms, pretty much, that they committed treason. And we'll see what happens. So I have a feeling that we're going to see major indictments coming, and I have a feeling that it's going to be, enough to put President Trump over the line. As far as we already know, President Trump's got the majority of the voters out there on his side, but it's really not enough at this point because we have this vast media fake news complex, which is using weaponized lies to attack President Trump and his supporters every day and incite violence across the nation. I mean, it's a major issue right now. So we're going to talk about that and a few other things. Before we do, though, quick reminder, this video is brought to you in part by Brave Browser. If you guys haven't tried it out yet, please give it a shot. It's free. You can use the link in the description to let them know I sent you, and then they'll make a contribution to this channel. So it's a win-win. You get a great product. It's free. It blocks the ads. And you'll help support this channel by doing it. So go check out the Brave browser today. It works on your desktop, laptop, your computer. It's better than Chrome, Firefox, Safari, whatever you're using. And it's got built-in features like firewall, VPN, Tor browser. I mean, this product is really good. I encourage you to check it out. And go check it out, download it, install it, and run it today using the link for free in this video. Now, getting back to where we were talking about here, I started here because we have to understand that this whole infiltration plot, right, where they infiltrated us and they set us up for it, is a delicate situation. And everybody says it's really easy, just arrest everyone, just throw them all in jail. I get it. Part of me has that sentiment as well. But as you're seeing what we talked about in yesterday's video with these fires across the world or across the globe, and you have all of these different flashpoints happening with other countries. Today, Russia came out and announced that they have a vaccine that they're going to start giving out. Now, and I don't know, where you guys stand. I'm sure most of you probably stand on one side or the other of that issue. But at the end of the day, it's all about a command control authoritarian system that they want to install globally that limits the freedoms of we, the American people. And it's a slow creeping progression. It's not something that happens overnight. It's a slow infiltration. And this is like what Q gave us here, right? Where it outlines the whole plan, right? To have a command control positions in order to ensure blanket insurance against their corruption and how they were leveraged and blackmailed into the positions that they were, critical leadership positions, right? They came in, there are traitors everywhere. President Trump's been fighting them off from day one. And we just have, another example here, which is kind of indirectly, but it's true. So you saw what happened with Kamala Harris, right? She's been chosen by Joe Biden to be the vice presidential candidate, even though I still don't think Joe Biden will end up being the candidate that they run. I do have a feeling that there's going to be some sort of last minute thing, especially at the convention, since it was pushed back to August, where they plan on some sort of switch. But even if they don't, even if they try to go all the way through with it, think about this. Her former press secretary is the guy running communications over at Twitter. The guy who also, I believe, was the one involved with censoring President Trump's Twitter account. And, it's just all a joke. Everything's a joke because these people live in this fantasy world where they act like they can treat us like second-class citizens. They can put us down. They can commit treason. They can sabotage our entire country. They can do all this stuff unaccountable to the law. And we're just supposed to sit around and take it. We're supposed to put on our mask, shut up, be a good little, prisoner. Go lock yourself in your home and don't mind us as we burn down, federal courthouses and riot through the streets and intimidate people and commit violent hate crimes. And it's like there's something very wrong with everything that's happening today. And I really do hope that we are all becoming more and more active in our communities, meaning getting together, marching together, showing up and showing these people that we're not going to be intimidated. We're not going to be threatened or coerced into doing anything other than what, we're able to do freely in this country. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day. For most of these liberals, they've turned our country with the fake news media, the weaponization of lies. They've turned this country into their little fascist socialist pet project, right? These globalist manipulators. And it's just so incredibly transparent, right? As we see, the social engineering. I was talking to somebody I trust about this today, saying it's all about social engineering, right? Even this, I'll point this out first. NYPD cops don't lift a finger as they watch an 11-year-old get beat down by a mob of thugs, right? And I don't care what you say. I mean, any group of people who are just standing idly by with their cell phones and watching an 11-year-old girl get beat down, they're thugs. And it is an indication of our society. Look at this picture. A picture really does say 1,000 words, right? When the cops went to intervene in this, they were actually basically attacked by the people in the neighborhood. This is in Harlem, in New York City. The NYPD was actually attacked as they tried to intervene in this. I mean, you can watch the tape here, right? So they try to go, there's plenty of cops there to go do it, but guess what happens? The cops go to help this poor little girl who's getting beat up by this mob of people, and then they start getting stuff hurled at them. They get yelled at, and they get told, get out of here, you're not welcome. Do you see what's happening to our country? This is what voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would ultimately bring to every major city in the United States. Because there is some sort of defeatist, nihilistic evil that is inherent in their policies and the way that they apply them, because they believe, right, that they can police themselves and that they can, enact their mob rule and literally have mobs come together to throw rocks and things at police. This is like third world country stuff. And these liberal mayors let it happen. So, look, I don't fully understand how we've gotten here, because I do fully get that, it's all strategic, it's all coordinated, but it all goes back to this post. Q explains this in detail. These master manipulators were infiltrating every level of government to help facilitate this treason and to cover it up. And now they have their thugs that they're releasing out of prison to come and intimidate us and try to hurt us for supporting a president who wants to stand up to this. Here's another example. 5-year-old boy shot dead at point blank range by neighbor who's 25 as he rides bike in his own front yard, where his 2 sisters had to witness this. Now, we need to pray for these kids, and we need to pray for this family. But it's almost like they worship evil. They love evil. And that's a problem. That's a real problem with our society. As you see that people who have these serious evil tendencies become venerated by the evil that exists, the structure that is meant to glorify that. And it's all demonic, in my opinion, and it's all indicative of where we're at today. But then you have people like Mayor de Blasio talking about Blue Lives Matter murals can't be put on New York, but you can put 100% political murals about Black Lives Matter. Again, I've said before, the insidious thing about Black Lives Matter, of course, is when you name a movement Black Lives Matter, any categorical rejection of that movement could be interpreted very easily by those who aren't informed or aren't paying attention as a categorical dismissal of Black Lives Mattering, when in reality, that's the most insidious part of it. You hide a socialist, communist, violent, racist, movement under this supposedly, and in and of itself, I think the name is basically racist, right? Because they say, and in all fairness, Black lives do matter, right? I'm not saying they don't, but white lives matter, and Asian lives matter, and Latino, and so on. Everybody's lives matter, right? And babies and unborn babies, especially, things like that. Think about that. But then you have people get up there and they preach about how, white people are inferior. That came from Nick Cannon, but he didn't have to really apologize for that. He apologized for saying whatever anti-Semitic stuff he said, but he never said anything about, I'm sorry for saying that that white people are basically inferior. And then you listen to the organizers at these protests and the rhetoric they're using, where they say things like, it started with, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon, and then it's graduated all the way up to, basically, forcing people to treat themselves in an inferior way, to demoralize themselves, to degrade themselves because of the color of their skin, because of an immutable characteristic that if the roles were reversed and it was like groups of white people out forcing groups of minorities to like capitulate to them, it would be categorical rejection across the board. But because it fits the narrative, because it suits the insurrection goals, because it helps their communist, socialist, paramilitary thugs that they filled our streets with all these criminals with the excuse of COVID. They took 4 years, and this was their plan. It took them 4 years, and they worked with the Chinese communists, and the shadow presidency ran by Hussein, none other than Hussein himself. And why do you think Hussein was following President Trump everywhere he went? Because he was telling them, don't worry. President Trump will never get elected again. And I said this years ago, that they would crash the economy and do everything they could to make sure President Trump get elected. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching it all happen. And the only way we can stop it is if we come together, organize, and stand up to them and show them that we're not afraid of them, and that we are not going to be treated in a way where all of our civil liberties are removed, all of our constitutional rights are thrown out the window because little idiot tyrants in the mayor position in certain cities or the governors of certain states think that they can just supersede the Constitution at their will because of some existential boogeyman threat, because it is a very disturbing trend. Now, another story here, Cuomo's nursing home policy killed nearly twice as many as reported. This is Matt Palumbo coming from Bongino.com. And, you know, look at what Cuomo says. He gets up on TV and says, you know, who can you blame? It's the CDC's fault. It's God's fault. That's how evil these people are. They blame God for the things that have happened that really were, in effect, his complete responsibility. He signed the order that pushed the COVID patients, the mandate, I should say, that pushed the COVID patients into the nursing homes where it spread like a wildfire and killed thousands. Right? So if you think about it, these people are godless, and that's probably one of the biggest problems with our society, is that they, you know, they moralize, they virtue signal, they tell you how morally great they are, then they won't accept the responsibility or culpability for their failures, and they choose instead to blame God. Can you imagine how evil that is, right? But we do have a bit of good news, because we don't want to just give you all bad news. Stanford's Dr. Scott Atlas added to the coronavirus task force, and he believes that it's about science and not the fear tactics. So just one, you know, bit of, you know, sunshine in a cloudy day. I just figured I'd share that because, you know, the other story out here is talking about now Hunter Biden being able to resolve a $450,000 DC tax lien in 6 days, months after settling paternity suit with a stripper. And not to mention Bohai Harvest and Rosemont Seneca, a story I was reporting on 4 years ago, right? The connections between Devin Archer, you don't hear his name, do you? And Christopher Hines, you don't hear his name, do you? Christopher Hines, who is that? Oh, that just happens to be John Kerry's stepson and one of the heirs to the Heinz ketchup fortune. You know what I mean? Heinz ketchup, you guys ever eaten that? Every time you buy a bottle of that ketchup, you're supporting Hunter Biden's a business partner and John Kerry's family. Think about that. I don't buy Heinz ketchup anymore. Throw that junk in the garbage, right? But nobody answers these questions. And Joe Biden gets up and says, you know, I'm going to be tough on China. You'll see. And like, it's like, all right, well then start by explaining to me how your son taking $1.5 billion from a Chinese investment bank is being tough on China. I don't see, you know, President Trump's kids out getting billions of dollars, but for some reason it's okay when it's his son, right? And then they play all the cards of Joe, like, poor Joe, he's had such a tough time, you know, leave him alone. It's like, this guy wants to run our lives. He can barely put together a sentence coherently. He's being handled like he's a child being locked in a basement. And this is like, it's a crazy world we live in. I'll tell you that. As this is the new rationale and logic from the left is, according to a Chicago BLM organizer, about the looting that took place in their magnificent mile in Chicago, where they have all the Louis Vuitton stores and the Salvador Ferragamo and all the fancy whatever brands, right? Mass looting, it's just part of reparations. Yeah. You know what? You guys should be thankful that we thought of this before, you know, anyone else. You know, we just went out and took it. That's how they're going to treat us, right? That's how this whole movement is set up, to intimidate, to violently threaten, and to harass, and then to assault physically, and then to loot and steal. That's what it has been unraveling into every time they get together with these mass protests. Every time a story gets pushed by the fake news that's meant to rile up a certain sect of the population, to show them this false reality where, you know, in their mind, police are basically out every day, you know, murdering young black people every single day, regularly, when the statistics don't even back that up. And if you want to look them up, they're the FBI statistics. They're widely reported, you know, kind of what they call the gold standard for statistics, right? I mean, the world we live in is getting pretty tough, and that's why, you know, it's all the more important to reach toward God. But this was a great point I read about the mass, right? And I love this because it's so true, and it kind of encapsulates it all here in one short little paragraph talking about what masks do and how it divides us. And it says people can be indoctrinated to distrust other groups very easily. This is what they are doing with social distancing. They're indoctrinating people to psychologically assume all other people are a threat. Like the old woman in the elevator, it was not racism. If an elderly black man entered, that would not have been a problem. The image of black youths firing guns and robbing people that appears on the nightly news creates the image that all black youths should not be trusted. The press is doing the very same thing with this virus. We are looking at permanent psychological damage. There's no putting this back together again. And I tend to agree with this review of it, right? Because if you're a normal person, you don't get afraid when you see somebody who's different than you. You just, oh, hi, how are you? Good to meet you. And if they're a nice guy, if the content of character is there, or a nice woman, then, you'll get along. Because that's how normal people act. But with the hypersensitization, or desensitization, I should say, from the media that actually works to instill this fear, right? They use that to divide us even further. So we can't let them keep dividing us. I mean, what it says here is very true, right? It's the social distancing, the mask. It's meant for you to be terrified every day of your neighbor, your friends, the people you see on a regular basis, that this existential threat, this boogeyman virus is going to kill you if you reach out to that person, if you talk to them, if you get close to them. Now, why would they want to do that? Was it perhaps because President Trump was uniting the country through prosperity? Perhaps it was because President Trump was helping us come back into our faith in Christ and helping us heal as a nation from years, decades of neglect and corruption and abuse. Yeah. And they were the ones, and the worst part is the fake news liars, the corrupt politicians, the big tech tyrants, they were the ones who benefited from all of our pain, all of our anguish, all of this indoctrinated fear. And that's what we're up against. Of course, this story I want to talk about, in a blow to mail-in voting, scientists find no connection between long lines and spread of COVID virus. This is from the Gateway Pundit. Yeah, there you go. But they're going to tell you, we need that mail-in voting, and California has already just given, they don't care. California thinks it is its own country. I really do think the people who I live here, obviously. You guys, if you don't know that, the people who run this state are beyond anything I've ever seen. I've lived across a lot of the country, and I've never lived in a state where the elected leaders are so brazenly corrupt and outright just despicable people who follow these socially progressive norms that are just outrageous, emptying prisons because of a virus. That's like, I mean, that to me just has the same rationale as like if a person went out and committed, mass crime, that they were like, well, we got to empty the jails because what if that person commits a mass crime in the jail? It's like, what? I don't get it. The logic makes no sense. And so another story I want to talk about here really quick. Bombshell accusation puts George Clooney in the middle of Epstein's illegal quote-unquote sex cabal. This is just a bit out of Virginia Griffiths. I can't ever say her. Virginia Roberts, whatever. I can't say her last name very well. But her book came out, and it talks about how Ghislaine Maxwell was bragging about having a sexual encounter with George Clooney. But again, this is what Q told us. Like, they want us to follow the stars. And they thought we would. But why would you want to follow the most immoral, depraved people out there at all? Once you realize what they are, I mean, yeah, the movies make them look like they're, heroes, and the magazines all make them look like they're this or that, and people follow it because of the drama or whatever. But it's really idol worship, and it's really evil and satanic in and of itself. And it's really why, I can't watch movies anymore. I can't, like, every movie I probably, even kind of liked growing up, I can't watch anymore because I know who the people are that are acting. They're pretending to be something they're not, but the people beneath the surface are just the worst kind of people. And that makes it very difficult to watch. Another shout out here to Lisa Mae Crowley, who got kicked off Twitter today, with a few others. Look, it's so nakedly political that I don't know what else to say. They're obviously acting in a coordinated fashion to remove all dissenting opinions to their political dogmas and narratives. ahead of the 2020 election. That's the big tech tyrants. They don't care. They're just as bad as California. Maybe that's where they get the brazen attitude from, where it's like Twitter thinks they can censor the president of the United States without any, retribution. Oh, it's a private company. It's a private company that accepted protections based on a presumption that they would protect the open dialogue and open speech on their platform. When they completely abandoned that, have become completely partisan, and have enacted a censorship agenda that would make Mao Zedong proud. These people are communists. They hate our country. So I thought I'd talk about that. And finally here, Kamala Harris's Wikipedia page. It's incredible what's happened. And you could have predicted that, based on back in July, this story, that Kamala was going to be the pick, because, as you'll recall, there's been an ongoing battle on Wikipedia where they kept editing her page to remove things that are unflattering to her. So this is what big tech does, though. This is what's so insidious and criminal and nefarious and evil about it all, is that these people, they manipulate the whole thing. They just rewrite the facts because they own the means that they own basically what I would call the town square. And they just go, all right, it's a private company, so we can just edit it and destroy it and weaponize lies to hurt this country, to help us, to hurt the American people, to hurt the average citizens, and help a very select group of people who believe in our socialist radical ideology. Which ultimately, what is socialism anyway? All these useful idiots out there marching through the streets are literally just marching for their own continued enslavement. If they really think they're going to get a socialist utopia, they're out of their minds. They're high on some kind of drug that nobody's ever heard of, I'm sure. Because if you think about what happens when the socialists take control, people like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and all become very powerful, and they reward all their little minions who are sycophants of theirs, but they end up punishing everyone more than I think anyone could ever imagine. So, moral of the story is we must stand up to these people and expose them. I'll leave links to all these articles if you want to read through them. There's a lot of information in there. I just want to get through that really quickly. But with that, a few more things, though. That's where we're going to wrap it up. A few more things before we go. Remember, hit that subscribe button, watch these videos, share them on your social media, get the word out that way. Also, don't forget to leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to think about everything. Couple other things. You can find me over here on Twitter for now, since they're systematically picking us off one by one in a very coordinated fashion so as to not draw the ire of, their entire user base that's conservative. So what they do is they pick us off one by one, day by day, with the intent of kind of seeing how far they can go. They take an inch, they take an inch, they take an inch, and pretty soon, before you know it, they've basically removed everyone, and there's no one left to fight for conservative Christian principles. But we put our faith in God. I put my faith in God. I know you guys do too. So they can do whatever they want to us, but God wins in the end, and we will persevere and prevail with our faith and our strength in Christ. So, yeah. Also, don't forget, in Just Informed Clips is the other one, at informed_news is the other Twitter page that I'm running over there. Plus, you can find me on Parlor at Just Informed Talk, and I'm on BitChute for the backup channel, bitchute.com/justinformedtalk. Also, justinformednews.com is the official website for Just Informed Talk. You can go get the info there. And you can find me if you want to make a donation and help keep this channel going over here on Patreon, patreon.com, crowdfunding website. You set your donation and forget it's a monthly donation, and you guys can help keep this channel running. I also have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation. Now, before we go, we do a segment at the end called God's Grace is Greater, as you guys know, and today I want to talk about consistency in Christian life. Now, we're going to go back to the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 15 through 21, and I hope these words help you. It says, "Pay careful attention, then, to how you walk, not as unwise people, but as wise, making the most of the time, because the days are evil. So don't be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is, and don't get drunk with wine, which leads to reckless actions, but be filled with the Spirit, speaking to one another in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, singing and making music to the Lord in your heart, giving thanks always for everything to God the Father in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, submitting to one another in the fear of Christ. Why do I share that verse today? I share it because ultimately we have to pay attention to how we walk. And remember, not to be unwise, but to be wise in our decisions, because, as I just went through in this whole episode, the days are evil. And that's when we have to have the strongest faith. That's when we have to really have self-control and put ourselves in a position so that we can succeed. That's when we have to look to God in everything, no matter what, even more than we may normally do, even if that's even possible for you, right? But turn your lives over to God and understand that this is how we connect with one another in a consistent way. We speak to one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making music to the Lord in our hearts, right? And giving thanks always for everything. That's how we'll overcome all this, ladies and gentlemen. And we can do that in ways that show that we're strong and we stand up for ourselves. We can march and sing psalms. This is what we're able to do. We live in the freest country in the world. We're so blessed by God with this great freedom to live openly and out loud as Christians, yet some of us don't embrace that fully. Some of us are afraid that if we go out and we speak of Christ or we speak of our faith, that we're going to be attacked or we're going to be put down. But that's why it's so important that we have to do it, because we have to not only show others who are afraid that it's okay, it's not okay to be afraid. We must be courageous, but also maybe we can save lives. Actually, I know we can save lives. We can help others find Christ, and that's worth it. That's worth every second of it. So, I have always been open about it, and I put it out there every day because I'm trying to bring people to Christ, and I'm trying to show people not to be afraid of their faith. So you can do the same thing, whatever it is, however you want to do it. Whether it's writing letters to your politicians, whether it's organizing and marching, whether it's doing your own YouTube channel, whatever it is, get the word out. Be courageous, but be consistent, and God will reward you. So He'll reward us all. That's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. I want to say thanks for watching this episode. Remember to come here, click the big red subscribe button, hit that bell, and also don't forget to leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to think, as always. But that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.